Last week, one of our members, Mayor Pro Tem Hall, received a distinguished opportunity with the North Carolina League of Municipalities. She will represent herself and all of our city as the new president of the League of Municipalities for the next year. This is a distinguished honor, as no one in Albemarle has ever served in this position before. So we're so grateful for her to receive this and wish her the best during this next year. We'll allow her to make a couple comments.
Thank you, and I would just first of all like to say that Albemarle had a great showing. We had several council members that were there. Several could not because of other obligations. We had staff members that were there. It is indeed an honor, and I brought with me, it's such an honor that I had my speech printed, my acceptance speech. But within that, it talks about the honor that has been bestowed upon me and bestowed upon the city of Albemarle. There are 540 cities, towns, and villages of all different sizes in the state of North Carolina. Some of them are Albemarle size, some of them are Norwood size, some of them are a population of 500, some are 500,000. But the one thing and the one issue that is within all 540, whether it's a little city or a little town or a village or a large city, each of those folks, just as we, are part of a community. And within that city, there's communities. I'm looking at one right now on that front 2 rows, or those front 3 or 4 rows, or the community over here. We all belong to organizations within our city that we live in. One of the things that I challenged all 540 towns, cities, and villages to do last week was to get involved with something individually. It didn't have to be the city doing it, but to recognize our youth. And what a wonderful evening to start that off today with our athletes and with our scouts right before us. So the timing of that is perfect. It is indeed an honor for me to do this, and I'm so excited. So much so that in the morning, well, no, not in the morning, tonight after we finish this council meeting, I'm driving to Wake County because I go to for the Council of State tomorrow morning at 8:30. But what an opportunity to continue to serve. So many people out there right now that I'm looking at, and you know who you are, have had an impact on my life in different ways and in different reasons. All I can say is whether you know that you're making a difference or not, know that you are, and that folks watch just not only what you're saying, but what you're doing. So thanks for being here tonight. Thanks to my council that were so good in showing up the other night, and for the members of the staff that came and members of the community that were there. It is a very humbling and an exciting experience that has been bestowed upon me. Thanks so much, Ronnie.
I invite you to join with us in the invocation by Mayor Pro Tem Hall tonight.
Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, for all of the gifts that you give to us every day, great or small, we are so grateful. We are grateful to live in a nation, in a state, in a county, in a city, where we can gather together freely. We thank you for community, great and small. Dear Heavenly Father, this board thanks you for the opportunity to do what less than 1% of our population will ever do. Be elected to represent their constituents within the community that they call home. Heavenly Father, we ask that you be with our staff, with each of our employees as they continue to serve the citizens of the city of Albemarle. Keep them safe, keep them in the palm of your hand. To Heavenly Father, a special prayer reaching out to now to all of those that are on our hearts who need to feel your healing touch. To Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of grace, and we thank you for the gift of forgiveness. May we offer that both grace and forgiveness to others. And all that we do and say, may it be pleasing to you. Amen.
Amen.
Council, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt Resolution 2504, 2505, 2506, and 2507.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Dry, second by Councilmember Townsend. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. I invite the basketball team to meet me right there in front. Turn around and face off. This is Resolution 2504, recognizing the Albemarle High School women's basketball team. Whereas the Albemarle High School 2025 varsity women's basketball team has completed a historic and extraordinary season, achieving third consecutive conference championship for the first time since 1987, 88, and 89 seasons. And whereas the team further solidified its place in history by winning the 2025 conference tournament championship and scoring and outscoring opponents by an incredible margin of 1,999 to 983. And whereas the senior class of the team has distinguished itself with sustained excellence over 4 years, advancing to the North Carolina High School Athletic Association Elite 8 in 3 seasons and Sweet 16 in the other, finishing their careers with an outstanding overall record of 71 wins and 22 losses. And whereas within conference play, the team has compiled an exceptional 37-5 record over 4 years, achieving an 88% winning percentage and helping lead the program to 3 conference championships and 3 tournament titles. And whereas the team achieved 3 20-win seasons and a 19-win season during the freshman campaign of this senior class, finishing the 2025 season ranked number 9 among all classifications, 1A through 4A, in the competitive Charlotte area. And whereas the program exemplifies not only athletic excellence, but academic achievement as well, with multiple athlete scholars helping the team earn numerous team scholar awards throughout the season. And whereas 16 of the 17 girls in this program are multi-sport athletes participating in other varsity sports, including track, soccer, volleyball, and cheer, demonstrating a deep commitment to both school and community. And whereas the team members have sacrificed, trained, and competed with discipline and integrity, proudly representing Albemarle High School, the city of Albemarle, and Stanley County at the highest levels of competition across the state. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the city of Albemarle commends and honors the Albemarle High School varsity women's basketball team players, coaches, and parents for remarkable achievements, teamwork, and exemplary sportsmanship, and adopts this resolution on the 5th day of May, 2025. I'm going to let one of you in the middle hold this, and David's going to get some pictures. Yeah, line them up like you want.
They've done that before. They have done that before.
Guards in front, forwards in the back.
I'll go on the other corner. Council, do you want to come out? Mike.
Oh,
Ladies, thank you again. And we talked about multiple sports. I think 5 of you got a soccer game in about 20 minutes. Thank you very much for being here.
That's the reason we didn't come out, Mayor.
Yeah.
is that we didn't want to keep them. They're going to go take off their basketball gloves, put on their soccer gloves.
Amari Baldwin, you want to bring anyone up with you, you're welcome to.
all right.
Resolution 2505, recognizing Amari Baldwin. Whereas the city of Albemarle is proud to recognize, hold on 1 minute. What's going on?
I don't know.
Let's try again. Whereas the city of Albemarle is proud to recognize the accomplishments of young leaders in our community who have demonstrated exceptional achievement in academics, athletics, and service. And whereas Amari Baldwin, a student at Albemarle High School and the Stanley County STEM Early College, has distinguished herself as one of the most accomplished athletes in Stanley County history. And whereas Baldwin finished her basketball career as the all-time leading scorer with an extraordinary 2,468 career points. And whereas Baldwin's athletic accomplishments include being named on an all-state selection, a multiple-time all-district selection, a 2-time conference player of the year, and selection to prestigious showcase events such as North Carolina, South Carolina All-Star Game and the East-West All-Star Game. And whereas Baldwin is a multi-sport athlete with numerous all-conference selections and conference championships in her and other sports, including being the part of a team that won a state title in the 1,600-meter relay. And whereas Baldwin was recognized as McDonald's All-American nominee, further highlighting her excellence on the national level. And whereas Baldwin has also demonstrated outstanding academic achievement, earning an Associate in Arts degree from Stanley Community College and earning a high school diploma from Stanley County STEM Early College with a 4.28 GPA. North Carolina Scholar Distinction and Spanish honors. And whereas Amari will continue her academic and athletic career at Winston-Salem State University on a full academic and athletic scholarship, serving as an inspiration and role model for youth across the city of Albemarle and Stanley County. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the city of Albemarle recognizes and commends Amari Baldwin for her exemplary accomplishments in athletics and academics. We extend our best wishes for continued success in all her future endeavors and adopt this resolution on the 5th day of May, 2025. Would you like to speak? I will let you. Thank you very much.
Amari, we're so proud of you.
Congratulations.
She said thank you, but she did not want the microphone.
I understand. We know that some of these students may be going to watch our soccer girls, so
Vincent Darius Gregory. Resolution 2506, recognizing, yes, anybody you want to bring up, anybody you want to bring.
come on, Mom. And Dad.
Resolution 2506, recognizing Vincent Darius Gregory. Whereas the city of Alamo takes great pride in celebrating the accomplishments of young leaders in our community who have demonstrated extraordinary achievement in academics, athletics, leadership, and service. And whereas Vincent Darius Gregory will graduate at the top of his class at Albemarle High School with the distinction of summa cum laude, while simultaneously earning an Associate of Arts degree from Stanley Community College through his dual enrollment program. And whereas Gregory has consistently demonstrated academic excellence and leadership as a member of numerous honor societies and student organizations, including the National Honor Society, the National Technical Honor Society, Math Club, Student Council, and Phi Theta Kappa at Stanley Community College. And whereas Gregory will be honored with the distinguished Annie Ruth Kelly Leadership Award in recognition of his outstanding service and leadership contributions to both his college and the broader community. And whereas Gregory has excelled as a student athlete, serving as three-time football team captain and earning all conference honors in football, wrestling, and track and field, as well as being recognized with the Heart of Champion Award for the North Carolina High School Athletic Association for his exemplary character and sportsmanship. And whereas Gregory was named one of the 6 state finalists in the U.S. Senate Youth Program, representing North Carolina at the national level, and has helped shape education policy as a member of the North Carolina Social Studies Advisory Think Tank. And whereas Gregory's dedication to service is evident in his role as a teen attorney with Stanley County Teen Court, his mentorship of fellow students, his coaching of Special Olympics athletes, and his work as a CTE ambassador and college promise speaker to promote academic opportunity and equity. And whereas Gregory has been awarded the highly prestigious Moorhead Kane Scholarship to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And whereas the Moorhead Kane Scholarship is one of the most competitive and esteemed scholarships in the nation, placing Gregory among an elite group of scholars across the country, highlighting remarkable character, leadership, and commitment to service. And whereas Gregory plans to attend UNC Chapel Hill, where he will major in psychology with minors in social and economic injustice and global cinema, with aspirations to pursue a career in law serving the public good. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the city of Albemarle proudly recognizes and commends Vincent Darius Gregory for his outstanding accomplishments and tremendous honor of being named a Moorhead Kane Scholar. We extend our heartfelt congratulations and best wishes, adopted this 5th day of May, 2025. Congratulations. You want microphone? Thank y'all all.
Oh, he'll be in there, darn it. Yes,
We don't have it.
yes, I will. You ready? You're gonna call it? or you'll
Next
take-
is Resolution 2507, recognizing Public Service Appreciation Week, and Ms. Hall is going to read the resolution.
Resolution 2507, recognizing Public Service Appreciation Week. Whereas the City of Albemarle employees serve our community each day through their work in city administration, economic development, finance, fire department, human resources, information systems, parks and recreation, planning and development, police department, public housing, public utilities, and public works. And whereas public service is not just a job, but a commitment to improving the lives of our citizens and building a stronger community for all. And whereas many of our public servants work tirelessly, often in challenging circumstances, to ensure the safety, health, and quality of life for our residents, and whereas the employees of the City of Albemarle strive to uphold the highest ideals of public service, embodying professionalism, dedication, and a commitment to excellence that supports our city's growth, resilience, and well-being. And whereas without the expertise, passion, and perseverance of our public employees, the continuity of progress of our city government and services would not be possible. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Albemarle recognizes May 4 through 10, 2025 as Public Service Recognition Week in the City of Albemarle, in appreciation of the outstanding contributions of the City of Albemarle's public service employees, whose efforts make Albemarle a better place to live, work, and play.
Thank you to all of our public service employees. You are very valued and you do a great job for us every day. Thank you. Four E, solid waste collection assessment presentation. Todd, you want to say anything?
Mayor, I'll introduce Ross Holzhauser, our Public Works Director. Ross, we'll let you have the floor.
Thank you, Todd. Mayor, Council, I'll be glad to introduce Jonathan Ingram. I think you all have met him through some Zoom calls with, he's with Raftellus, our consultant that did the assessment for our solid waste collection study. He's here tonight to do a quick overview of the study that they did for your consideration on how we're going to move forward with the city services. I'll leave this up to Jonathan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's very good to be with you this evening. As the Public Works Director indicated, I will spend some time today going through the key findings that we've reached relating to the solid waste study that we were asked to complete a little over about 6 to 7 months ago at this point. Before I get started on the presentation, just some context to give you a little bit of a sense of the question that we were tasked with. So ultimately, we at Raftellus were brought in to answer the question, what would it look like to potentially bring some or all of your solid waste collection services in-house to be run by the Public Works Department as an effort to either generate operational improvements, improvements to customer service, the customer service that your citizens, your residents are experiencing from the solid waste collection side, and define what that would look like from a staffing perspective, what that would look like from a financial perspective, so that you all can make good decisions, both as fiduciary agents for the city, but also on behalf of your residents. So that's the context that we were brought in to answer, or to talk about and to do some analysis for. So as the Public Works Director mentioned, I spent a little bit of time with you a little over a couple of months ago, just on a Zoom call, more of a work session just to give you a sense of an update. Really just want to share our final findings with you. Not going to go through the same level of detail that we went through the work session, but certainly happy to answer any questions you may have as we're going along. But if you prefer to hold questions toward the end, that's fine as well. So just high level in terms of the project overview again, I want to talk a little bit about our process and how we went about the work. So, you know, the most important piece for us really early on is the engagement side. So we spent a lot of time having conversations with the folks in Public Works who are performing and managing the solid waste service, both in-house as well as the outsourced portion, which is currently provided by Waste Management. We completed an extensive analysis on existing contracts, as well as data related to the mixed solid waste collection services, as well as some benchmarking and best practice research. So we looked at kind of how you all are structured, the level of service you all provide, compared that to some other peers to see if there's anything that we could learn from those peer organizations to inform how you might want to adjust your service to enhance the service to the public. And then we built that staffing and financial model, which I shared with you in draft form, and then prepared the project report, which I believe has been attached to your council packet. So just high level, I want to kind of orient folks in terms of the current operation. So right now, when you see the acronym MSW, that means mixed solid waste. Currently, your mixed solid waste, which is what is sort of set out at the curb, it's your standard trash. your recycling and your bulky waste have been historically managed by Waste Management. They're currently managed by Waste Management. So that's a contract arrangement, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail. One of the challenges that you all have faced, and I think you all in council have heard this from many of your residents, is there are some persistent service level issues associated with the delivery of that service from Waste Management. One of the most common issues is damaged carts. We see a lot of that in the field. We do this work all over the country, based out of Charlotte, though, so just a quick heads up on that. But we do this work all over the country, and this is a common issue that we see often. We also see a lot of issues with missed pickups. And frankly, the missed pickups are going to happen. I think one of the challenges, however, is how Waste Management has historically responded to those missed pickups. So what we're looking for is some improved customer service in that space. We also see some issues on slow, bulky response times. So the bulky collection, those are those larger items that you would set out. You know, it could be a couch, could be, you know, a garage cleanup kind of thing. And you all have really high service levels in those areas in particular. Yard waste, as you all know, is currently managed in-house by your public works staff. You all made the determination over the past couple of years to bring that in-house. It's been fully operational for about a year, and they've done a really an outstanding job from our assessment in delivering that service, and has done it really very efficiently in terms of how we've, you know, what we see throughout the country. So that's just a high-level overview of the current operation. We looked at really two scenarios. So how do we change the current operation? How do we amend the operation to address some of these fundamental customer service issues that you all and that your community would like to solve? And there's two scenarios. So the first is really bringing the entire operation in-house. So what we would call fully insourcing the mixed solid waste, recycling, and bulky collection, okay? And we also looked at partial insourcing. So that's really kind of breaking the service up into two categories. The first is the trash collection, the mixed solid waste, which is, you know, done on a weekly basis. And then there's the outside of the cart services. So that's the bulky collection that would be pulled back in. So in other words, it would be the city of Albemarle taking on not just yard waste as an outside of the cart service, but also bulky. The key issues here that we want to really look at is the contract costs, right? So you know, we'll pay attention to how these different models may impact your contract expenses. There are some flexibility issues and some resident dissatisfaction with bulky pickup that we're really looking to solve. So just a high-level overview of the two options. So kind of the first option, that fully insourcing option, there's a couple of pros that we really want to highlight. The first is it gives you all as a city the opportunity to take kind of full ownership of the service level that's provided to the community, right? And that's really the primary driver and the primary benefit. It also creates some stabilization of your long-term costs. One of the things that's really hard in a contract arrangement, it can be difficult to anticipate what those price changes are going to look like, especially during renewal periods. And one of the things we expect is you will see some increases in your contract costs in the near term, certainly probably reflected in your current budget deliberations, but also you know, toward the end of the contract, which expires in 26. It also allows you to leverage some of the existing equipment and investments that you all have already made to provide enhanced service to the public. The challenges are, as you might expect, it can be a little bit expensive, right, to get into the business of solid waste collection. Refuse packers are particularly expensive pieces of equipment. They are expensive to maintain as well, so that's an added cost. And you obviously have to be able to staff each route. So you have collection 5 days a week, right? You need to be able to staff your garbage collection routes, yard waste collection routes, and bulky waste collection routes on a consistent basis. So there's a staffing investment there. And you also need to be able to manage those folks, right? So there's a code enforcement element, there's a supervision element that you really have to account. Those are costly. It also requires that you all take on the burden of managing your refuse carts. Right now, that's done by the contractor, by Waste Management. So you need to there'd be a capital investment in terms of those investments. So one of the challenges with, and the one area that I'd also highlight, is there's some facility investment needs. The fleet facility is not really equipped to be able to take on the maintenance of the solid waste packers. It's too small a facility. There's a need to invest in that facility anyway. That really needs to be considered, frankly, outside of this assessment. So there's some nuance there. But one of the things that I would highlight, there's also maybe an opportunity to think about, all right, is this a business that we really want to get in, and how do we phase ourselves into this business, and potentially think about how we can use general fund capital to support some of the upfront costs and level out some of the impact to your residents down in the future. So that's something worth considering as well. The partial insourcing, again, I'll kind of go to the pros. That gives you that same level of control over the bulky, the backdoor services, those special services. And really, you all provide a really high level of service. Most communities don't provide backdoor collection. That's a really high touch level of service that you all provide. You have no limits on the amount of bulky collection that can be set out. That's extremely unusual. So those things are really high touch services that your residents have really come to expect, and gives you some greater control over that to be able to be responsive when there's a customer service issue and provide that white glove service. It also allows the contractor potentially to say, okay, and this is really what your contractors want. They just want to focus on mixed solid waste collection. They want to tip the trash carts because that's the most efficient part of the operation from their perspective, right? So moving with a partial insourcing opportunity potentially allows you to decrease your contractor costs for mixed solid waste collection because it can generate some efficiency for those haulers, right? So those are really the pros to consider. The challenge is, when you're looking at yard waste, when you're looking at bulky, bad storms can really have an impact on your operation. It's a bit less predictable, and you may have some all hands on events where your folks are forced to kind of clean up those events. You still have the risk of fee hikes from your hauler. Usually a little bit of advantage to be able to take on some of the service, so there's not as much, or there's a little bit more of a risk to the hauler there, but it gives you less overall flexibility as well. The one big caveat here is the assumption that your contractor costs for collecting trash for mixed solid waste would go down. They very likely would. That's what we would expect, but there's no way for us to guarantee that. We've assumed that in our assumptions, but that's just something to consider there as well. It's also less of an investment in terms of fleet facility. You just don't need the same kind of facility investment and the same kind of fleet that you would need to take on this smaller operation. So when we look at the staffing impact, as well as the fleet and facility impact, the full insourcing, as I mentioned during the work session where I presented, will require about 13 new full-time equivalent positions. So when you see FTEs, the acronym there, that means full-time equivalent. You'll need about 12 vehicles, totaling about $3.2 million roughly on the vehicle side. That's refuse packers primarily, but there's some specialty equipment built in there as well. The fleet facility is really significant, and building storage for your refuse packers is also significant. But the challenge here is this wouldn't really be fully attributed to your solid waste operation. So fleet serves, all your other funds as well. It serves the general fund. So there need to be some division there. So then you'd really only be using a private hauler for your apartment complexes only. So which there's a market for. This is also primarily rate supported. So what we've assumed, and we'll kind of talk about the fee structure in a moment, is primarily this would be funded with rates, not with general fund support, right? So with the exception of those facility investments, which I alluded to a moment ago. So high level, that's an overview of the staffing impact on option one. Option two, the staffing impact is much less significant. So you would need about 5 full-time equivalent positions to be able to staff your bulky collection routes. It also gives you the ability to maybe make some adjustments in your bulky service level, where you still provide consistent service level, but you shrink, you put some size limits on it, and then allow for potentially spring or fall cleanup events where anybody can send everything out. It's kind of all hands on deck. There's lots of kind of best practices that you can employ to create a little bit more consistency week to week in terms of what your folks can expect, but still make sure you're providing your residents with that really high level of service. So just some small adjustments there that could be helpful, would require some public education. 4 vehicles will be needed. Again, this would be kind of general fund supported for year one, but rate supported in replacement cycles, so some need to invest in that capital. Primarily packers, but also a grapple truck, so to be able to manage some of those larger items. The facility investment, again, compared to $5.4 million, about $3.3 million, and that's a very high conservative level estimate. You should really come in lower than that. And there's a lot of flexibility, I think, in terms of, and your public works director will certainly find you the most cost-effective way to meet the need. And then the private hauler kind of piece, you would need to essentially issue a new bid for carted services, right? So the challenge here in terms of cost that I mentioned is we don't know what that bid's going to be. Costs are increasing pretty dramatically for the haulers. When you hit 2026, I would expect, much like in previous years, if you maintain the current model, it'll be tough to attract a competitive bid, which incentivizes your current hauler to bid a higher amount to cover their costs, right? So that's one of the challenges we have to pay attention to. So again, this is a kind of a little bit of a busier slide that highlights the whole package, but just comparing the two side by side. So 13 total staff compared to 5 on the insourcing model. about 12 vehicles compared to 4. Total carts, on the option, and again, in full insourcing, you would need to purchase about 14,000 carts, and then 500 per year. So that would be built in as a new operating cost that you'd have to maintain for a replacement cycle. But in the insourcing option, you don't have to buy the carts. That would, again, continue under the contractor. And then the facility build, obviously, at $5.4 million versus $3.3 million conservative estimates. Again, you may be able to drive that cost down with some creative planning. So what does this mean to the residents, right? That's the bottom line impact. So when we look at your current rate, there's a couple things to highlight. And really what this table shows you is sort of what's your current rate and what would the future rate be based on a 7-year average. Right now, your resident is typically paying about $28.23 a month for the solid waste collection operation. That includes about $19.08 per month attributable to the waste management contract, and about $9.15 a month attributable to city costs. So really the yard waste collection operation primarily. There's a couple key points to highlight here. One is you all are currently not fully paying for the cost of delivering the service. So this rate doesn't reflect the fully burdened cost. It reflects direct costs, the cost you're being charged, as well as the cost of your labor. But your indirect costs, such as management, right, human resources, information technology, purchasing, those critical internal services, depreciation, right, those things that ought to be baked in under a true cost accounting model are not fully reflected in this rate. So right now, currently your general fund is subsidizing the cost of delivering the service. That's certainly a policy decision you all can make, but it's an important distinction, especially when comparing to peers, because when we look at enterprise fund, peer organizations, they're going to take that indirect cost into account. Okay. Now, if we look at what it would take under the current alternative, both a full insource option as well as the partial insource option, that rate would increase to about $52 a month for full insourcing. So, not an insignificant rate increase. But the partial insourcing feature is a more affordable option. So translating from about $564 a year or about $47 per month. So when we look at this, we're really going to think about it in a few different ways. So how can we start to do this, start to move forward with addressing some of these service level issues and take a little bit more direct control and authority over the operation in a way that allows you all to build capacity, to develop some internal expertise, to continue to develop your internal expertise in delivering the service. So our recommendation would be, if you're going to pursue one of these two options, to pursue the partial insourcing option, to really build up that outside of the cart service and really take that on as your responsibility in the city and provide that higher level of customer service. It gives you the ability to kind of target some of those higher complaint areas to make sure that those high touch services are really cared for with your staff and with folks who, a lot of them live in the community or live nearby the community, right? And then it gives you the ability to kind of build that internal expertise and potentially move toward a more full insource of the operation down the road. The key things to consider here, and again, you need some general fund support for some of the fleet and equipment. That's really the biggest thing that I want to highlight here, and I'll talk about this in implementation. It can take about 18 months to get a packer once from the point that you order it. A lot of the supply chain issues have not necessarily been resolved in that area. So that can take some significant time, and the facility investments, as you all know, will take some significant time as well. So currently your waste management contract is set to expire in June 26th. There may be a need to extend that to accommodate an implementation timeline. So there's some implementation issues there, but really making a decision in terms of the direction you want to go is really critical, I'd say, in the near term, because of the lag time associated with that facility and that fleet equipment needs. So that's part of the message I really want to leave you all with is, though you have a little bit of time, if you look at it in the long term, there are some decisions I think that would need to be made in order to position you all to take on the service down the road. So we plotted out really kind of your key implementation considerations and steps. And, the first kind of 0 to 12 months is really fleet and facility considerations, and then starting to add the staff. So year 2 and really, leading up into 2026, adding the staff and potentially determining whether any increases in negotiations with waste management or potentially with another hauler will be required. And then rebidding that contract. So there's an implementation period there where you'll need to issue another bid and evaluate potentially new service providers should you go with the insourcing option. The partial insourcing option. You'd also want to make sure that there's some significant public education around bulky service. That there's a Jack Welch saying, when you're absolutely sick and tired of communicating, you're about halfway done. You know, when you're talking about a service change or a potential impact on residents, door hangers, conversations, and really building in some implementation and time there to make sure things are done well and that your residents are cared for there is really important. So that's really high level what I wanted to share with you all today. Again, there are obviously some increases associated with the cost. The trade-off is, you know, we think it can offer some significant improvement in terms of your customer service and give you a lot more flexibility and a few more avenues to explore down the road to continue to take a little bit more ownership of the level of service your residents are receiving.
Council, obviously, there's no decisions to be made tonight. We can talk about that during some of our budget workshops, but do you have any questions that we need to answer tonight?
I just would have one, if I may. When we took over the leaf collection,
Mhm.
starting this fiscal year, actually, and this could be something that you and/or Ross answer, it appeared that in the past, that was one of the largest complaints, concerns from the public. During your investigation, is that what you were able to ascertain as well? And I guess I'm looking at you
Mhm.
right now.
Yeah, so one of the things we asked for during the process is a report on, forward me every single trash complaint, every email or call we've gotten from a council member, from a resident, so that I can understand what sort of calls you're getting. And I didn't see a lot of emails or calls related to yard waste collections. I saw a lot of them related to your mixed solid waste collection, a lot of them related to bulky, missed pickups, and cart damage were really the most significant issues that we saw.
So follow up to that,
Mhm.
because you just started your investigation after July 1. Isn't that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that, that would go, I mean, we have taken care of doing the leaf collection in-house. That was our largest complaints about timing and things. So if you had to, besides the bulky items,
Mhm.
was that the major one that rose to the top with the most complaints?
Miscollections, lack of follow-up on miscollections was really,
Right.
miscollections are going to happen, but how you handle them is what matters the most. And I think the follow-up was lacking.
Right.
We'd see long time frames, some difficulty, frankly, from staff's perspective, getting movement from the folks at Waste Management to respond to an issue, right? So that's really the evidence that we saw. And then the other was cart damage.
So the last comment would be, would it be fair to say that in Albemarle, we have a Cadillac version of our service delivery?
It's pretty fancy, yes,
It's pretty fancy. We got a golden egg.
ma'am.
We have spoiled the public. Is that what I about heard you say?
Oh, no, it's not. You haven't spoiled the public. Your public has a high level of expectation, and you all have been committed to providing that.
That's a good way to put it. That's exactly. But we have done that by providing such service.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You indicated that it's kind of rare for a municipality to not have limits on a bulk load. Kind of what's the norm that you see in most municipalities as far as a limit for bulk pickup?
So right now, I think there's a very large limit. Let me put it that way. And it's about the size of a commercial dumpster, or of a dumpster at the back of a restaurant, right? 4 cubic yards. So that's a pretty significant pile, and you can't really handle that with 2 people. You have to use a grapple truck, right? So usually what you see from a bulky limit is an item, right? So you can set out, if you have a couch, or you have a box, or you have some limits similar to what you have in terms of your yard waste, where 1 person or 2 people have to be able to manage it if they can't. But what you can offer is there's a call-in service for those larger items. Just schedule it so we know to send the right truck out, right? So you can still provide that really high level of service, but you can level out the expectation so that you don't end up with one bulky route that takes you 10 hours to complete and the other one that takes you 2, right? You want to create some consistency for your staffing levels.
And then the backdoor service that you mentioned.
Yes.
Is that not offered in most towns? Or?
It's not a common service, and I will say you offer it to folks who really need it. It's not a universal service that you offer. It's typically folks who are in need, or the elderly, for example,
Right.
or folks with disabilities. So it's a high glove service. It's not a huge impact on your all's operation, and I think you all can take it over pretty effectively with the bulky operation. Yes, sir.
This is a 3-year process. We're ending year 1. which means we've got 2 years to put this into play. If I were Waste Management, or is it possible that Waste Management would think, you guys are dumping us, we'll walk away?
Waste
What
Management's
what
here
would
out
happen?
here.
That's serious.
Waste Management's here tonight.
Yeah, they listen.
Well, but that doesn't, I'm not giving you any suggestions or anything.
Well, I think,
But is there even any possibility of that happening?
I really couldn't speak to that possibility. I think there is a compelling need to improve the quality of service. And there are multiple avenues before you to do that. One of them could be an improved relationship with Waste Management, an improved level of service. But there are also financial implications associated with delivering the service. It's a difficult business to have to achieve a margin in, right? So a profit margin. Sorry to use that language, but it's a challenge, right? So, but some conversation around, all right, what are we getting for the money is, I think, important.
I don't know what the best thing is, but I can tell you this, to do nothing is not an option. And I can prove that to you. I'll take you down behind my store and let you look at the condition of the trash pickup and so forth. And I think you'd agree with me. To do nothing is not an option.
And just for clarification, I know you mentioned somewhere, and I read where we got like 6,887 customers. Is that all residential? I assume? So why do we need 14,000 carts purchased plus 500 per year? What, or am I looking at that wrong?
Recycling as well.
Excuse me.
Recycling as well.
Oh,
One green
okay.
card.
Gotta have a blue one and a
Okay,
green one.
Gotcha. Good deal. All right. Thank you.
Good question there, though,
Any
Derek.
further questions? So I don't think we're doing anything that probably other cities are not doing. They're just evaluating their options, and we'll look at them during our budget process. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Good to be with you all this evening.
Thank you.
4F, the Comprehensive Land Use Plan Progress Update. Mr. Clark, comments?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll recognize Kevin Robinson, who's with us here tonight.
Thank you, council. As we talked about before previously, we're about halfway through with the comprehensive plan, and I know some of y'all wanted an update on that. So we have Lynn Hare from Centralina here, who's going to give a brief presentation on that to you.
Sorry about that.
Pull it
Well, good
down.
evening. Yes, hopefully you all can see me. As Kevin stated, I'm Lynn Hare with Centralina Regional Council. We are the organization that the city has contracted with to draft your new land use plan, or your comprehensive land use plan. So what I'm here this evening to do is just give you an update, let you know how that project's going, where we are with that process. We have been working diligently since last summer. We contracted, I believe, in July, and we have gotten a lot accomplished. But I did want to spend just a minute just touching on what is the purpose of a land use plan? Why are we doing this? I have to say kudos to you all as a council for seeing the wisdom in this process. What the plan is, it's a combination of your vision as a city. It's a policy, it's a strategy for development. You're looking at what you want your future as a city to look like. What's Albemarle going to be in 20 years when it grows up? You're making a statement that is a community that you're proactive, that you are willing to look to the future, you're investing in your future, you're looking for that clarity that this type of plan can give you. You as council have been charged with adopting the plan once we get it completed. Staff, we're working closely with them here with Kevin and his staff and our staff at Centralina. We also are working with your community. We've had numerous public engagement events. The land use planning process is a group effort. No one does this alone. It's very important that everyone's involved and that your community really gives us their input on what they see the future of Albemarle to be. So we're also looking at what are the existing conditions, what's going on in Albemarle today, what are the trends, what's the path forward, And then the topics that we are specifically looking at and will include in that land use plan are your transportation services, your roads, your infrastructure, your community facilities and services. We're also looking at housing. There are types of housing that are needed here in the city. Your economic drivers, job creation, what types of jobs are needed? Are there enough jobs? Natural resources, how do we protect those? Make sure with development that we're taking that type of thing into consideration, as well as your cultural amenities and the health of your community as well. But the biggest thing we do look at is growth and development. Where's that happening? And how are we going to handle that as a city that's growing like Albemarle is? So key roles in the process, just the people involved. I touched on this very briefly, but the community plays a big role in this process. You also have a steering committee that you all appointed. We have been working with them since last July. They play a big role here. They're really guiding the process and helping us as the consultant with direction on the plan. And then your planners, your city planners here at the town, or excuse me, the city, as well as at Centralina. We are collecting data. We're collecting feedback from the community. We're also going to write the plan. We're creating maps, and we will actually be drafting the document. And then the city council, you all will be reviewing that final document and adopting it. So this is a timeline of where we started, where we are, where we're going. This is a 4-phase plan. We started back in July with the plan foundations. Second phase, or phase 2, is your plan engagement. And we are firmly in phase 3, where we are actually to the point where we're developing the plan. We're starting to draft some of the language. We're working on creating the future land use map. And then once all that is completed, we will move into phase 4, which is plan presentation and adoption. So phase 1, plan foundations. I think I mentioned a couple times, we started back in July. From July to September, we worked on collecting data. We were looking to see, demographic information about the city. We had a kickoff meeting with your staff where we talked with them about what the concerns and the goals of the city council were in the city, making sure that we understood that as we started implementing this project. We also, the steering committee was formed. You all appointed a steering committee, and we met with them for the first time in September. And then phase 2, we entered that in October. This was the plan engagement phase. This is where we started reaching out to the community, and we did that in numerous ways. We created a survey. You had around 780, 800 responses to that survey. Your staff did a great job of making sure the survey was on your website. They got out there at your fall event and solicited responses to that. We also held an open house on November the 19th where we invited the community in. Your steering committee played a big role in that. They helped get the word out about it. They also came to the open house and they staffed it. So we appreciated their assistance there, but it was a team effort. Your staff also held neighborhood meetings. We created a PowerPoint. They went out into the community and met with different groups and solicited feedback from them. They were doing that in the month of December all the way through February of this year. So they did a lot of that legwork. They also held a mapping open house here at Town Hall where they invited the community to come in and show them, where do you think development is occurring? Where do we need different types of development to happen in Albemarle? What types of development do we need? So they really did a great job of soliciting that type of information from the committee. We also held 2 steering committee meetings during this phase. Back in October, we met. And then in January, on a very cold morning, I remember this, we held that 3rd meeting and we started working on talking about the vision. What is the vision of the plan going to be, and what are the guiding principles? And we got a lot of great information and a great turnout from the committee on that. Phase 3, this is where we are right now. Back in February, and we're going to be working on this phase through September. This is where we are creating, and we're really finalizing the vision statement and the guiding principles. We've gotten to a point where we feel like we have those firmed up. We got a lot of great feedback from the community. We heard very strongly that you have a lot of people living here. They're very proud of the city, and tonight I can see why. You have a lot to be proud of here in Albemarle. And we've gathered a lot of information about, what it is they love about the city, what we're trying to maintain, where we're going in a direction, what types of things can we put into this plan that will just enhance that vision. We're also going to be creating and finalizing the future land use map. and also drafting the document. So we are working hard right now writing and working with your staff on reviewing those chapters. We have 2 stakeholders meetings during this phase. We met on March 13th where we started the land use map process, and we will meet again with your steering committee in July to finalize that map. And then phase 4 is the final phase. This will happen from October to December. At the end of September, we will have a draft plan that has been vetted by your staff and your steering committee. And we will be bringing that to a final open house where we will present that plan to the community. We will have a presentation. We will invite the community in to review the plan. We will walk through the different chapters with them and be there to answer any questions, solicit feedback, and then make any changes that we hear from the community. If we need to go in a different direction or make some specific changes, we can do that. And then we look to present the plan to your planning board at an open meeting in November. And at that meeting, we will be asking them to make a recommendation on the plan. And then we will be bringing that plan to you in December for final adoption. That will be at a public hearing again, where the community will be invited in. So that's the process. That's where we are. That's what we've done and what we have left to do. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. And I appreciate you having me here this evening.
We all know that there's a lot of questions right now in the legislature,
Yes, sir.
and it's probably to our advantage that you're not going to finish this thing to closer to December, so maybe you can incorporate all these changes that we're worried about occurring. Let's put it that way. Do you have any concerns? Are you monitoring what we might need to change?
We definitely are monitoring the legislation, yes. And a lot of things that are going on right now will really affect your ordinances, your zoning ordinances, your development ordinances. We can start to think about those things if we need to during this planning process. And I think the best thing we can be doing is thinking how we can incorporate those changes into your development ordinances once the land use plan process is completed. But we are absolutely monitoring those things, yes.
Any more questions?
I'm just glad to hear something because when this first came to our attention way before you were involved, Lynn, we were 18 months before we got it started. So, we look at where we are right now, and had we been able to have started it when the idea first came to us, we might not be where we are right now about some of the issues. However, like the mayor indicated, particularly 765 is really going to put a hole in all of this.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Further questions? Thank you very much for
you.
being here
Thank
and
you
giving
very
us this
thank
update.
you. Yep.
Council, move on to approval of minutes. Request approval for April 7th, 2025 special session, April 7th, 2025 regular session, April 21st, 2025 special session, April 21st, 2025 regular session, and April 21st, 2025 closed session for consult with the attorney and real estate.
Move approval.
Motion by Councilmember Hall to approve, second by Councilmember, who said that? Dry. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to public comments. The first one I have is Deanna,
Great.
I think it's Gray, 203 Area Avenue. Okay, well, we got our handout, so that's good. Okay, then we'll move on to the Boy Scouts Troop 82. I think they're here working on their citizenship badge or something. Come on up and tell us about it.
All right, good evening, guys. My name's Trevor Davis. I'm the Scoutmaster for Troop 82. We're here today. We're hoping to get an MOU approved so we can start working on our scout hut over there at Hearn Park. That's been the troop's home since 1940s when Chuck Moorhead started the troop. And we really want to get back in there. It's where our history is. Everything the troop's been through since back in the 1940s is documented by something in there. It's our legacy. So really that's why we're here. We're really hoping to get an okay to an approval to go ahead and start working on that. But Yeah, sorry, we were thinking that this was gonna happen after the.
Well, and I just would ask if, since that's what's next on the agenda, have you all seen, or somebody on your behalf, seen the MOU that has been presented?
Yes, so we have seen it, we've reviewed it, we've signed, notarized it, and turned it back into Lisa.
Okay, and is that what the same I'll ask our attorney, is that the same document that we have before us? The one that they have signed? It is? Yeah.
It is the same document. The only thing that is included in the one that is attached is a lease term of 9 years. And that is mainly because if you go over 10 years, you have to go through the upset bid process.
Right.
And so we capped it at 9, but it can be revisited at the 9-year timeframe.
So that's the only change from what they have signed?
It was blank when they signed it. There was just, we were waiting on council to approve it along with the 9-year lease term. But
Okay,
we do have a signed version from them.
okay, very good. Then, Your Honor,
Anything further, you think?
No, no, sir. Oh,
Then let's move to the consent agenda and ask to consider approval of Troop 82 Memorandum of Understanding.
so moved, so
Motion
moved.
by Councilmember Hall.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Dry. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for being here.
Yep, thank
Y'all
you.
have another home.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. I hope you get that building fixed in a hurry.
Thank you.
Yes.
And there's probably something they can mark off citizenship in the community tonight from being here.
Moving on to new business. 8A, fiscal year 2026 budget presentation. Mr. Clark. Oh, shoot. Sure. Sure, tell them, bring them all up front.
That's right. He sure was. He's on the wall down there.
David, you line them up.
I can't see him, so he can't see me.
That was an old saying, you know, Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we have our budget presentation for you, and I will read the budget message to you. As part of the packet, you do have the greater content of the budget in line item form that has been provided to you tonight as well. Before I read the message, just several things. First, I want to say thank you to all of the leadership team, and particularly Jacob for helping me work through this budget. My first one that we've put together, so a lot of time, effort, energy went into doing this, a lot of thought. But that happens every year, so nothing unusual about that. But I do want to recognize the staff for your time and effort that you have put into this to ensure that we present a responsible budget to City Council. Next, I want to just mention that we will have at least two budget workshops to review the proposed budget, which I will present here momentarily. The first one is on May 13th at 4 p.m. in the Ray Allen Room. If needed, we also have May 15th, also at 4 p.m. in the Ray Allen Room for review. Copies of the budget will be available with the city clerk. It will also be provided and available at the library, and our public information officer is going to post this to our website. So it is publicly available for review and inspection. So with that, Mayor and Council, I will go through the budget message presented this evening. So a lot of reading here. Please bear with me, and we will get started with budget review on the 13th. So in accordance with the North Carolina Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act, I am presenting herewith a balanced budget for fiscal year 2026 for the city of Albemarle. This proposed budget is submitted for review, discussion, and subsequent adoption after any changes made by the City Council. The City of Albemarle strives to provide a high level of municipal service to our citizens and utility customers. In order to provide a high level of service, the city must annually generate sufficient revenue to cover the full cost of each service delivery area. Therefore, management evaluates a number of conditions and variables when developing revenue projections for the next fiscal year. These include a review of local and national economic conditions, state collected local government revenue, and revenue projections for June 30th of the present fiscal year. The revenue neutral tax rate, in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 159-11, subsection E, mandates a review of property tax values following the most recent general reappraisal of real property. As such, management is required to publish the revenue neutral property tax rate based upon the reappraisal process. I have included a section of the general statute, and I think that it is appropriate for me to read this for you and for the public, just so that we have this on record. NCGS 159-11 subsection E reads, in each year in which a general reappraisal of real property has been conducted, the budget officer shall include in the budget for comparison purposes a statement of the revenue neutral property tax rate for the budget. The revenue neutral property tax rate is the rate that is estimated to produce revenue for the next fiscal year equal to the revenue that would have been produced for the next fiscal year by the current tax rate if no reappraisal had occurred. To calculate the revenue neutral tax rate, the budget officer shall first determine a rate that would produce revenues equal to those produced for the current fiscal year, and then increase the rate by a growth factor equal to the average annual percentage increase in the tax base due to improvements since the last general reappraisal. This growth factor represents the expected percentage increase in the value of the tax base due to improvements during the next fiscal year. The budget officer shall further adjust the tax rate to account for any annexation, de-annexation, merger, or similar event. With that stated, the revenue neutral tax rate based upon the results of the 2024 reappraisal is 50 cents per $100 of valuation. And this is calculated using an estimated property tax base of $1,955 million as reported by Stanley County. The proposed 2026 fiscal year budget for fiscal year 26 is $94,663,096. This represents an increase of $11,415,632, or 13% increase over the current fiscal year's original budget. As proposed, it includes appropriations to ensure continuity of municipal operations after June 30th of the current fiscal year, capital additions as outlined in the city's capital improvement plan, and increases for employee compensation and benefit plans. The general fund, as proposed, is $24,929,078. This represents an increase of $3,940,281, or 18.8% over the original FY25 budget of $20,988,797. The general fund is balanced with a tax levy of 61 cents per $100 of valuation, as well as an appropriation of $499,756 of unrestricted fund balance. And Mayor and Council, that is for capital purchases as well as a small shortfall, which the 61-cent property valuation will not cover. And be happy to get into further details during our workshops concerning that. The recommended tax rate of 61 cents per $100 of valuation will generate $2,649,818 of additional income over the revenue neutral tax rate of 50 cents per $100 of property valuation. Pardon me. Unfortunately, a revenue neutral budget does not sufficiently cover costs because it assumes the city can operate with the same amount of revenue as in previous years, despite significant increases in the cost of goods, services, and labor. Rising costs mean that maintaining the same revenue level would force service cuts or delays in critical investments. Simply put, what a city or town could afford since the last assessment in 2020 cannot cover the same expenses today. Notable projects and expenditures in the general fund include employee health insurance increases estimated to be 35% higher than FY25. The addition of 10 new firefighters funded through a FEMA Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant, also known as a SAFER grant. Expenses for this grant in FY26 are associated with the purchase of turnout gear and personal protective equipment for each firefighter. Grant funding for salaries will progressively reduce over a 5-year period, at which time the city will incur the full cost of each position. The general fund also includes 3 new patrol vehicles for the police department. Funding to pay for additional tax collection fees calculated based on the new values produced from the 2025 property reappraisal. Informational system purchases and improvements to secure data and maintain operational compliance. A new fire department records management system. A roof replacement for Fire Station 1. New OpenGov permitting software system for planning and development services. Street resurfacing projects totaling $1.1 million. And I will note that that is just from the general fund. There is additional money that I will speak of from the Powell Bill Fund, an additional $200,000. Also, capital purchases, including a ladder truck at $2.5 million, Fire Station 3 renovations at $100,000, a mini excavator for $95,000, 1-ton dump truck for $85,000, single axle flatbed dump truck, $150,000, police department in-car cameras, $484,413, mowing tractor with flail attachments, $130,000, city hall HVAC replacement, $76,000, Niven Sitter HVAC replacement, $60,000. The mayor and council, some of these items will be purchased with commercial lending, and some of these will be paid with cash. Your Powell Bill Fund is proposed at $710,141, represents a decrease of $65,194, or a decrease of 8.4% over the original FY25 budget of $775,335. The notable expenditure in the Powell Bill Fund is $200,000 for street paving, which combined with the general fund brings it to $1.1 million. $1.3 million combined with $1.1 million from the general fund. The proposed water and sewer fund is $16,279,807. This represents an increase of $1,056,291, or 6.9% over the original FY25 budget of $15,223,516. This budget is balanced with no rate increase for water or sewer. Notable projects and expenditure in this fund, I apologize, I had general fund, that should say water and sewer fund, include additional increases in credit card transaction fees, a Highway 52 water plant reservoir dam repair project, wastewater treatment plant sludge disposal fee increases, a water system low pressure engineering study, a backhoe replacement, purchase of 2 water and sewer crew trucks, a water main replacement project on East Side Avenue, and a similar project on 8th Street, and continuation of AMI water meter replacement projects. The electric fund is proposed at $37,535,970. While this represents an increase of $4,117,486, or 12.3%, over the current budget of $33,418,484, there is no recommended retail rate increase for our customers. The primary reason for the increase in this fund is for the completion of the Central Substation Expansion Project totaling let me just read that out, $3,371,500, and undesignated fund balance will be used for that project. Other notable expenses within the fund include increases in credit card transaction fees, wholesale power purchases, emergency radios for each crew truck, purchase of a bucket truck, purchase of a line truck. Also the purchase of a new superintendent pickup truck, meter testing equipment, a single phase and SCADA reclosure to replace oil switches, the purchase of an ASV forestry brush cutter machine, and the U.S. Highway 73 reconductoring project. Solid Waste Disposal Fund, also known as our landfill fund, is $4,280,973, which represents an increase of $331,609, or 8.4%, over the current budget of $3,949,364. The proposed solid waste collection fund is $3,189,063 and represents an increase of $494,144, or 18.4%, over the original FY25 budget of $2,692,919. This recommendation does include an increase to the monthly solid waste collection fee from $28.23 to $30.55. Notable expenditures in this budget include an increase due to the Consumer Price Index adjustment of 4.4% for solid waste collection services provided by Waste Management. That expense is expected to increase from $1,576,545 to $1,645,913. The staff also requests to purchase an additional leaf truck at a cost of $308,000, and that will be to augment the services that we started this year. Public housing funds. The public housing Section 8 proposal reflects a total budget of $1,162,960, which is a decrease of $33,423, or 2.8%, over the original FY25 budget of $1,196,383. The proposed public housing conventional fund is $1,622,029 and represents an increase of $174,933, or 12.1%, over the current budget of $1,447,096. The proposed health insurance fund is $4,953,075, and it represents an increase of $1,397,505, or a 39.3% increase over the current FY25 budget of $3,555,570. So we have seen a drastic increase in health insurance expenses. Employee compensation provides for a 3% cost of living adjustment for all employees. Additionally, employees will be eligible for merit increase based upon demonstrated individual performance and will range from none to a maximum of 3% increase based upon that performance. The proposed budget also continues implementation of the city's annual 1/3 salary study, and the departments included in the salary study include finance, information systems, human resources, Public Utilities Administration, including electric administration, customer service, and also city administration. As part of the North Carolina Local Government Employees Retirement System, mandatory increases are necessary in FY26, bringing the contribution for general employees to 14.35% and 16.1% for law enforcement. A 1% 401k contribution increase is also proposed for general employees, bringing the total city contribution to 2%. In conclusion, the proposed fiscal year 26 budget is a financial plan that will enable the city to continue providing a high level of service to our citizens. In summary, the proposed budget has attempted to meet numerous objectives under a fiscally responsible budget. The core objectives include meeting our statutory duty to provide quality municipal services in a manner that safeguards the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens, meets our fiduciary responsibilities to operate within a fiscally conservative budget, continues to move the city forward in accordance with the city's strategic plan, replaces aging infrastructure and equipment that is failing and no longer reliable, rewards employees through merit-based pay adjustments, and generates private sector investment through our city within our core business district through efforts coordinated through our Economic Development Department. Mayor and Council, as we endeavor to provide the best possible services to our citizens, I want to express my appreciation once again to city staff, our finance director, for working with me to prepare the proposed budget. We look forward to working with City Council to make any desired changes before final approval. And Mayor and Council, just to be clear, we will, of course, advertise for a public hearing, which will be held at our first meeting in June. Look forward to having a conversation with all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Council, I encourage you to read this thoroughly, and we will meet next Tuesday at 4 o'clock to start going through this budget and asking Mr. Clark questions and make any decisions that council needs to make. Anyone have any questions tonight?
Good job considering what we had to work with. I'm really quite amazed at what we've been able to get in here. And thank you for everybody's time and effort putting this together.
Thank you, Mr. Dry. I do appreciate City Council working with us several weeks ago to understand some of the challenges we have in preparing this budget. I know you have a very difficult task ahead of you, and we've just done our very best to provide you with the structure of how we can move forward. So thank you very much.
No further questions? Okay. Mr. Clark, I believe the next item on here is your report. Do you have anything to bring to us?
Well, I'll just make a couple of quick comments following that. There were several things I just wanted to call to your attention. One was, you may remember we got several compost piles out at the landfill that were on fire. When I say they were on fire, they were more or less smoldering. There was no actual fire, but where there's smoke, there's fire, I suppose. So I want to thank Kenny and Darren Pressler at the landfill for getting on top of that. They worked with the Forest Service to get sprinklers out there to the landfill. They've been working it for over a week now. The rain that we had over the weekend was very helpful. Kenny informed me just before council tonight that he thought maybe another 2 weeks and we'd have it completely out. So y'all have done a great job there. Lights at Don Montgomery Park are virtually up. I know the mayor had commented earlier tonight that he noticed that we're still doing some wiring, so we're almost complete with that project. Darren is also working with our electric department to install safety netting, which will go just behind where the row of Bradford pears were located, just to try to offer as a safety net, quite literally, no pun intended, for foul balls along the first base line. So Darren, thank you for working on that. We also know that we have had a spillage at the Jack Neal water treatment plant. consisting of alum carbon, which is a byproduct of the treatment process, and mud into the lake. The state of North Carolina has notified us that we need to do an immediate cleanup. I want to thank Brian Henson for getting on that fast. We've learned about this, I believe, Friday, and he had a team contracted and mobilized on Saturday. So, Brian, thank you for jumping right on top of that. Mayor and Council, those are just the primary items I wanted to review with you. I'll be happy to answer any questions or receive any comments.
Council have any questions? Okay, a few reminders. Number one, I had notified every council members that there is a teacher appreciation Wednesday morning at the high school at 7:45. And I'll tell you, it's really short. It only lasts from 7:45 to 10 minutes after 8, where they have to go into the classes. So if you're going to come, please be on time. And I would encourage you to come just to appreciate teachers and speak to them. Electricities is August 11th through the 13th. So far, we've heard from Ms. Hall and Mr. Bramlett. Anyone else know if they want to go?
And do we need to make our own room reservations?
Yeah, you have to make your own room reservations, and you'll get the contact information from
Right, I've seen that, right, from the
Christine as soon
registration.
as she does the registration.
You know, if you register, what timeline you have to cancel if you have to.
I have to look. I don't remember. I've read so many. Second, COG is May the 20th, 6:30 at Brentwood Farms in Locust. So far, I've got myself, Bramlett, and Hall. Anyone else going to the COG meeting on the 20th in Locust? Mr. Aldridge? Mr. Townsend?
Benton.
Mr. Dry? Got those? Okay. Anything else to come before council? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 31811A3 and 5 for consult with the attorney and real estate.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Hall,
Second.
second by Councilmember Dry. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.